Wow.
Hello and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today for Economic Times virtual roundtable discussion on the topic Power of Active Intelligence Transcending Collaboration Beyond the Last Mile. This session is powered by Click. I am Dimple Bajwa from ETH, welcoming you all to this session. Organizations looking to breach the veil of uncertainty and weaving resilience into their DNA for future shocks are focusing on gathering more data. This data can help organizations thrive and assist decision makers in taking real time decisions. However, this can only happen if this data is used to its full potential in order to generate useful insights. And business intelligence can prove to be more useful in these tumultuous times if it is conveyed in a real time manner. This is where active intelligence comes into picture. It provides analytics ready data along with the most updated information in real time. With an amalgamation of the data at rest and data in motion, it represents the pulse of the data, providing business insights and creating an intelligent data to analytics pipeline. Today's session will unleash the power of using active intelligence in today's data driven demands. With real time agility becoming the need of the hour, it is critical for businesses to adapt to demands as quickly as possible. The points that will be touched upon during this session are current level of adoption of active intelligence in organizations and in government, challenges they face in adoption of active intelligence, and how can organizations begin to incorporate active intelligence. Business outcomes that active intelligence may help you accomplish, and how data pipelines can enable quick decisions and help in prompting immediate action. And to shed more light on the same, we have with us today Lily Prasad, Chief Technology Officer, FSSAI, Dr. R. Gopalakrishnan, General Manager, Data Analytics, CRIS, Prashant Mittal, Managing Director, NICSI. And the session will be moderated by Nilesh Kulkarni, Regional Head of Solution Consultants, India and SARC Click. Without further ado, I now invite Nilesh to take it from here. Over to you, Nilesh.
Thank you, Dimple, for setting the context up. And thank you, ETH, for setting up this platform for us to have this discussion. So first of all, a warm welcome to our eminent panelists, Lily ma'am, Dr. R. Gopal Krishnan, and Prashantji. Thank you for accepting us to have the conversation with us. As the theme goes, I would first like to start by talking about what active intelligence is to set the stage, and then we will come to our eminent panelists to get their views on how they're using data and analytics in the organizations and what other views are about. So a little bit about active intelligence. It is a state of continuous intelligence where technology and processes support the triggering of immediate actions from real-time and up-to-date data. It's based on real-time, up-to-date information, and it establishes an intelligent data pipeline with dynamic business content. And it's also designed to trigger the immediate actions. So let me take an example to explain what I mean by this active intelligence. And let me talk about supply chain optimization example. A supply chain can deliver far more value when it is managed based on the current conditions. What I mean by that is combining the latest sales, production planning, the demand data, along with the supply side, the logistic data can drive just-in-time decisions, which moves with the market, and that helps take the decisions appropriately and have the appropriate impact on the business. So that's about the active intelligence. Now, let's move to our eminent panelists who can provide us some real world context. I'm really delighted to have this esteemed panel joining us today, and they can share their personal experiences across their organizations. Given what we are going through in last 12 to 18 months with a lot of changes that we are seeing in our day-to-day lives and all, as well as business life, I would like to start by asking our eminent panelists by what are some of the shifts that you see in the government and public sector organizations? Maybe we can start with Lily ma'am first. And Lily ma'am, if you want to probably start by first talking about what you and your teams are doing at FSSAI, and then address what shifts you see in the government and public sectors, that would be a good start for us.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, ET, for giving me this opportunity.
First of all, the major shift that I see today in e-governance sector is that people are now aggressively using the data for informed decision. So that is one change. Secondly, it is not only simple BI or visualization effect that we have, but it is really related to complex BI that is being used to predict, forecast. Thirdly, in FSSAI, what we are trying to do is implement the traceability. When I mean traceability, then I mean to really say that we have vast applications related to licenses, we have related to labs, and we are related to import clearance. And so we have different type of stakeholders also. We have FSOs, food business operators, import clearance, then officers related to these applications who are working on the operations day and night. But what is happening is we are not able to trace one of the stakeholder like a FBO, for example, who is a food business operator. Maybe he might be working as a FSO also, who is collecting sample. He might be related to a lab also. So if I want to do this traceability across applications, only then I will be able to handle the challenge where the samples don't get changed and I have the correct testing of the sample. So we are trying to have uh, detailed analytics as a CO at the dashboard level so that our senior stakeholders can have. So main aim is traceability related to my business operators. One is this. Second thing is, as an analytics framework that I'm talking, I want to have this framework built across not only at the project, but people are having data in projects, people are having data at the people level, at the resources level. If I build this framework at an organization level where I can use project data, resources, the project resources, the people who are working on projects, and link them to the project to so as to get the performance. If I get this, probably I will be able to churn lot of data and help admin and help the HR division as well as project to identify how good my organization is performing. So this is one thing. Then we are trying to work on the fraudulent activity. And lastly is RMS, because my organization is working on license generation and import clearance. So we have to work on the decision to clear a particular sample or generate a license. And so we need the data analytics to be present so that license can be generated correctly. So these are a few things which we are working in FSSAI. Thank you.
Thanks, ma'am, for sharing your views. And it was interesting to hear about the frameworks that you want to build in order to use that data so that you can work on the projects and ensure that the right decisions can be made based on data across these departments. So we can move now to Prashantji. So Prashantji, if you could talk a little bit about uh, your role and your views on what shifts do you see in the government and public sector organizations given the current conditions we have.
Actually, if we want to gauge the shift, we can have the middle paper of newspaper where you will find lot many vacancies, lot many courses being offered, and data sciences are the buzzword at this moment. So it is evident that everybody wants to get the benefit of the heap of data they are keeping. And because we are an entity which is engaging in all sort of ICT activity with all the government offices, and we have created around 2 years back, sensing the forthcoming requirement, um, Center of Excellence for Data Analytics. This is a team built by NIC and NIXI together, and we are serving for, I think, more than 40 ministries as of now. that include some classified offices also, and in general, non-classified ministries, departments. So if you find the relevance of such type of usage, it is across the globe. Every government is ramping up their investment in analysis, and they are reaping the benefits also. It is not only there is some investment. And I should share one of my experience which I had during my earlier assignment, where I was heading the IT team in Ministry of Rural Development, which transact around 1.5 lakh crore per year for rural tours. There we were having, I think, plethora of data where per day transaction is 1 crore transactions per day. That is the mammoth transaction we were serving to government, and all the vulnerable class like MG Narega worker, Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Gramin, there, and we could implement the scheme swiftly only because we were having data, we were having data scientists, we were having tools. So we can provide each of the district collectors, district program coordinator, that how many houses they are going to sanction, or they would be having to complete in coming months, years, like that. So we provided them statistics, how much steel they will be having in a particular district or block or tehsil level. So all that analysis we provided, and as compared to average time taken for one house to be completed, which was 317 days earlier, had come down to 117 days. So you can assume, if you can complete a civil activity prior to some allowed time, you will be saving money out of that. So whenever such time as Madam Lily was also talking, that it is not analysis, it is also usage of that analytical results, which is helping all the executives, all the finance people, everybody, they are getting benefit. So we can see that India has initiated a momentum across their verticals, whether it is the private sector, government sector, PSU, or enforcement agencies like FSSAI. So we are doing an all quarters, and we are this data analytics as being integral part of digital India, because we have to reach the billion economy zone. So if we can produce good data scientists, and we can also export the services of these scientists, data scientists, so we can easily reach out to that. And we are also working with Niti Aayog, where we are setting up data governance and quality index, DGQI. DGQI 2.0 is forthcoming, and we are also working with DMEO, the data management unit there, headed by Dr. Bonu. So we are also working with the NIC to provide the OGD platform, Open Government Data Platform, where all the data is available to common man for their analysis. So it is not something which which are in captive mode. We are providing tools, we are providing data access, and we are also helping them in capacity building. So naturally, it is a phase shift. Earlier, before 5 years, it was like some new IT buzzword, but now it has started happening. That is my take on this question. Thank you.
Thanks, Prashantji, for sharing your views and talking about the need for the data science and how the data analytics is becoming an integral part of the digital India and initiatives around the open data, etc. Thanks for that. Were really helpful. Let's now move to Dr. Gopal Krishnan and hear about from him in terms of what his role are and what shifts he sees in the recent times in the government and public sectors from the data and analytics perspective. Over to you, Doctor.
Thank you, Economic Times, and good afternoon to the panelists and colleague panelists, and also to the audience. What I can foresee, we are a small, like SCRI is a Center for Railway Information Systems. We are the IT arm for Indian Railways. So we have a dedicated data analytics team now with a couple of like at least PhD level data scientists and also masters in like statistics group. And we also have very active collaborations with the top academic institutions in the country, like Indian School of Business or Indian Institute of Science and IITs as well. So we have already rolled out around 10 use cases. Some of them will have benefits of around thousands of crores. So like that's a small estimate or a guesstimate, as we can say, only when people use it, you get it. There are multiple challenges that will come along the way when we are talking about data-driven policy making. As everybody wants, right, what Mr. Prashant Mittal and Lily Madam also mentioned, is that there is a lot of emphasis on policy making, which is data driven. We want to be right the first time. We don't want to be experimenting with different policies. So we want more scenario analysis and more exact, and also more even for the operational level. This is for the strategic level decision making, maybe at the ministry level. But at the operational level, when the field officers are there, we would like to like them to take better informed decisions, because they also take a lot of decisions which are quite high in value, be it either in the revenue side, cost, or even the risks that the supply chain will pose. So we are into the domain of both from the passenger side, we are into very high advanced analytics for demand forecasting for what's going to be the next few days or whatever, few months. And also what kind of optimization or predictive analytics or prescriptive analytics we should do. We do both predictive and prescriptive analytics. So what kind of optimization engines are required? How can we reduce our costs? How do we more focus on the revenue side? And also on the long-term planning side, more scenario analysis and all those things. So we are helping the railways achieve all of them. But it will be a long journey, because we have already identified over 100 use cases which we have to do, and they are, as Lily ma'am also mentioned it, they are arranged into frameworks. So these use cases are not going to be in isolation. They are like a Mercedes-Benz car where the wheel and the steering wheel have to be in sync. So you can't have a wheel and the steering wheel which is totally different, or the engine is going on the reverse direction and you're wanting to go in the forward direction. So they all have to talk to each other, and no single model can come out of AI. It has to be a mix of model and an ensemble of models, which as a system, as an integrated AI system, have to talk to each other, because the complexity of the roles of each decision maker in the government of India is not looking at one particular problem. He's looking at multiple dimensions of the problem, and he's trying to arrive at a solution. So we are looking from a systems perspective and trying to move in that direction. Thank you.
Thanks, Doctor. I think that was some of the interesting views highlighting the importance of data in driving the policy and decision making within the organizations. So that was really insightful. Now let me move to a topic where we are now seeing that the governments and public sectors are generating and collecting huge data, like Prashantji earlier mentioned, around the open data initiatives and collection of huge amount of data by the governments and public sectors. So how do you think enabling analytics on this type of data can offer better services and outcomes for the citizens, as well as the other beneficiaries of these governments and public sector organizations? So we can start probably with Prashantji and then move to Doctor and Lily ma'am.
Thank you. But the question is very, I think, important. When we talk about the beneficiary scheme, how we are able to reach to carry the benefit to last mile. And in government schemes, we are having, if I sum total all the benefit schemes without excluding the duplicacy, we will be somewhere around 10 to 15% of the global population. If you add 36 crore for ration card, 26 for ration, that NREGA, like that. So if you
The
can
scale
add,
is very huge.
And there are many countries who don't just believe in first instance. When we are presenting our case study, they just think there is some error in mentioning our number. So this is another thing. So when I talk about the citizen as at large, we are able to provide we are unable to tell them beneficiary right away that due to this scheme your parameter was such, so you could get that. But certainly by analysis of SEC Socioeconomic Caste Census 2011 data, we were able to identify the families which were having the largest depreciation, and we started the service, that benefit delivery in ascending order. So the person who was having 0 marks was the first one. So like that, we moved that way. So this could have been done only because we were having data, we were having tools, and we were having the persons who can group those data sets. And when we talk about the policy makers, so there is certainly a phase shift where earlier there was something, you please distribute one table, one chair to every district. We are out of that. We are just out of that, that you are just distributing the grant on just the count of district unit, the count of SDM or headquarters there, or block development officer, like that. That era has gone. Now everything is analyzed like that. What is the service delivery per 10,000 population for that district? Requirement is gauged like that. So naturally, if we plan that way, we will be able to distribute our resources in more focused manner, because we all understand we are not developed country. We can't make expenses on whims and fancies. We are having limited basket, so we have to distribute from that basket judiciously to my citizen. That's
correct. Yeah, I think we have to manage that scale with the limited resources that are available. And we have also seen some of our customers in the government healthcare department, how they've used data in terms of what schemes are available, how they are actually percolating to the actual citizens, how many of them are actually using it to improve the reach of those type of government schemes. So I thought I'll just share one example from my experience. Let's move to Dr. Gopal Krishnan and see his views on how he thinks that enabling analytics on huge data would help, can offer better services and outcomes based on his experiences.
The kind of data that Railways normally collects comes from both transactional data, wherein there is some transaction happening, say, between the customer and the railways, or there is some data entry being entered by one of the employees of railways. Could it be from our maintenance departments, or could it be from our accounts, or could it be from HR as well? And the other side of data is coming from sensors which are deployed on the field. So we have all our electric locomotives will soon be tracked by ISRO satellites. So already around 6,000 locomotives are tracked every 30 seconds for their geotagged locations, acceleration, speed as well. So we get around 2.5 gigabytes of data every day into our systems. So both kind of data, the big data kind of regime we are seeing. So you're not in transaction data, the number of records are fewer. You can probably load everything in one RAM and then do whatever kind of analytics. And some places you can't even probably use 2.4 gigabytes of data every day and try to run your algorithms and things like that on it. So we are also giving suggestions like where exactly our trains are halting out of course. Like for example, if the train is not supposed to halt at a station, it's halting somewhere at a level crossing, there is a lot of traffic jam there. And we see very frequent or recurrent kind of instances. So we have algorithms developed for it based on our satellite tracking data. So we are going to use big data to infer it to the common people in the field of, okay, these are the places which are vulnerable at these points in time. So they might, whenever they go and see a particular location or inspection or whatever it is, they see that perspective from that particular narrow vision of at what time they actually inspected the location. So now we have a 24/7 kind of horizon available, and those kind of insights we're able to do. And we're also sooner we'll be progressing into like real-time health and like maintenance analytics for our locomotives and things like that, so that we are able to prevent failures on rather than respond to failures. So those kind of things on the big data side are possible, but as data is in any analytics, it is 80% of the work of cleaning, processing, integrating, and things like that, and also understanding the data. So it's a huge amount of data coming in, so huge integration challenges, huge data quality challenges, huge data governance challenges, and a lot of these are getting addressed now.
I'm sure that's a huge data that you're collecting every 30 seconds, so many locomotives at so many places across India, collecting that data, analyzing that data to have the appropriate decision making. I'm sure that must be a huge task, and it would be really interesting to probably sometime later on hear more about that. So, moving to Lily ma'am, what are your views in terms of the data which is available, how analytics can offer better services and outcomes if we add analytics on top of the data? Uh,
Yeah, I just wanted to emphasize that if we look at the statement of Steve Jobs, probably however complex the data be, but the analytics and the interpretation of the chart or the visualization that we derive should be in the form of a common man's language. So a person should be able to understand what we are trying to do with the data. Otherwise, building complex chart, I work with various organization which connects to masses like Aadhaar, GEM, Mighty, and other projects where you may use various tools. You may build complex analytics, but then if a common man is not able to understand and interpret or make an informed decision, then the whole purpose of doing analytics is somewhere lost. This is what one is this. Second thing is, every organization that you talk to, you'll be talking to various organizations who are having big data sets. I feel that we are not looking at a perspective where we build a data lake or a framework across organizations, like we build uh, payment gateway, we build NSWS, National Single Window. Same way, we should have a single window at a framework level where organizations who do not have resources, expertise, but have lots of data which can be analyzed. So we have the blend of tool available. A ministry can be initiated, and if they have the resources who are trained, they could use the framework and build their own analytics. If they don't have, they could buy the service, like we have the cloud services. Similarly, we can have analytics services. They could buy the services and then build their own analytics by giving. So this is one, I feel that since we all organizations have become quite conscious, so we should now, it is high time that we should look at this. Second thing is, as Dr. Gopal Krishnan said, use cases have to be built initially rather than choosing the tool, then designing and then building on the VIs. Because unless and until I know how, so this definition I will tell you, when I practice matrices, then at that stage itself I discovered that unless and until I know what is the objective of that measurement, I won't be able to use it. How many measurements I make. So the use cases have to be very clear initially. The objective has to be set so that I know what I'm going to do with this analytics. Traceability, AI, machine learning, these are all, I mean, the features are available. Thirdly, I feel the very strong feature that analytics tool have is the NLP, Natural Language Processing. You might be building various tools, charts, analytics, data might be there, but then NLP helps users to create their own dashboards, based on whatever phrase they speak. So even if you don't know what is the actual name of the chart, you will be able to use it or create it, or able to reach to that last point where I am able to make some informed decision. So I feel that uh, we have already achieved lot of uh, I mean various objectives that we had set for analytics, but then it is high time then that there is a need for combined effort across ministries, across department, across organizations who have already worked hard on analytics and building a framework at the country level. Thank you.
Thanks, ma'am. And actually, you made one interesting point, the first point that you talked about, where you quoted about the data and visualization, that about however complex the data could be, but if you could visualize it well, probably then it makes more sense to that data. And probably I would like to extend that by talking about this bringing in the aspect of storytelling, right? If you could actually build the stories on top of that data, it makes probably a lot more easier for business users, consumers to understand that data and take the appropriate decisions based on that data. So that's a very interesting point I thought that you brought in. And given that you have such a humongous experience of implementing the IT systems, applications around data and analytics, so where do you think you are in your data analytics journey at FSSAI, and how deep you are in that journey, and how far you really want to go in that data analytics journey?
Okay, so I have worked quite a lot, but my work experience at FSSAI regarding analytics is at very initial level where I want to set up, but I want to really achieve and see my organization at the level where every person in my organization is obsessed with analytics and able to take out any chart that they want at any point of time. So availability of data like a common man tool should be in every stakeholder in FSSAI, and I am able to trace everything that is happening across applications.
Right. Thanks for sharing your journey and where you are. So probably you can move to Dr. Gopal Krishnan and hear his views in terms of how he sees the data analytics journey at Crease, and where you are, and where do you see that journey going in near future?
That's a very important and a very pertinent question, in the sense like we can't rate ourselves very high right now. I would say that we have started, we have at least, we know what the scale of the problem is, at least had a sense of what this complexity of the problem is, what kind of challenges we are going to face on the HR side. That's the first. The budget and technology is second. So the first challenge will come from HR side. When I say HR, it includes both the business, both the user side, as ma'am mentioned, of usability, and also the fact that enthuse people to consume that thing, be able to deliver to that aspiration, and also the data scientist part, which is more in focus in, say, all the online courses that make Coursera and all those things. That's where the focus of the entire industry is. But I feel a very important role for business partner. We cannot be aspiring for the best algorithm. We have to have a good algorithm, at least to start, at least make some dent. The versions will keep improving and keep developing. When Windows was made, or Microsoft started an operating system, it started with DOS. It didn't start with straight away with Windows XP. It's all with version control and things that kept on improving. So we also have to start small, make people enthused about, even including the top management. So AI invariably happens to be a top management driven initiative, because unless there is top management support and interest, you won't get the right HR support that is required to go for it, and also the kind of support across the organization who are going to be the consumers. The different roles in the organization are the consumers. It's not like it could be the district magistrate in the district, or in railways it could be some person in the field, or somebody at the top level who is taking a different set of decisions. So they have to perceive all the kind of roles. So the dashboards also have to be role specific. I cannot make a generic dashboard then expect right from top to bottom everybody is going to use the same. So everybody understands what's in it for me. So I have to be able to look at that. And as far as our initial focus goes, I think we have been made a small dent. We don't claim too big. We make a small dent. We show the importance of all the kind of the dent or the kind of impact that a particular AI analytics use case can have. And once the success is there, somebody champions it and shows that this is the success that we can achieve, then you really win the mind. It's a question of a mind game also with your large organization when we are in the government.
Great. I think would be really interested to see your data analytics journey as you grow further in that journey. So let's move to Prashantji to hear that his organization also serves so many government departments. So how do you see that data analytics journey? Where do you see they are, and how do you see that journey going forward, sir?
First, I would like to appreciate Mr. Gopal for humble acceptance that despite his churning out so much beautiful reports out of the data available, he is so humble, and I wish that he gets all the desired outcome which he is forecasting in his deliberations. I find my role in two ways, as you rightly said. I am also providing support in data analytics field to lot many ministries, departments, and user organizations. On the other hand, same thing is applicable to myself, my organization. Actually, as Mr. Gopal has rightly said, we should start with small things. And the very first day you can't achieve Windows XP. So here I should say that we should start small, but it should be smart and significant. Because if we will be giving very trivial information, the user will start saying, what is there in this? If I can say out of 100 people, 52 were male voter, 48 with the female voter, they will not appreciate my thing. If I can say the percentage of educated voters is like that, or the urban area, rural area divided, like those newspaper come up with certain type of reports very next day of polling. So this is a very classical example, how they invite eyes to their tables. It will be needing infographic that Madam Lily has said. It should be very, you can say, charming one. It should not be, the era of tables has gone. Now everybody wants to see the data on different tools, maps, or the different color bands, like that. Too many things are quadrant analysis. And that has made our life easier also, because tools for respective analysis and visualization are readily available. And I would like to inform all the August participants of this workshop that government is coming up their own indigenous visualization tool. It is named as Tejas. Tejas VI tool, visual tool, which we are building in-house, and we are in the beta version, and we are providing this without any charge to any user for testing and their feedback. Because if you see the market, there are some open source tools, but the proven one are very costly. So we are providing services of all sides, sort of, even Power BI, Tableau, and you can say those things we are providing on the pool basis. So effective cost is not so great. So we are trying to build the Tejas, a classical thing for all users who want to start. And if they want something very smart, very aggressive, then only they should go for the OEM products. So that is one thing. And we are also, my SEDA is also offering capacity building, and we start with the noise, identification of noise in data. Because you can generate any report which is not based on the purity of data, and you haven't analyzed your report output with that plus minus thing without considering noise, then it may harm the user of your report, your analytical reports. So we are working on that. we are also working on the custom build thing. So as Madam has said, we should be able to come up with some solution where everyone who is working on the PC or computer can claim himself or herself as a data scientist. So that value I want to inculcate in all my government users. And we are working with some of the ministries where we are training their staff, because everybody understands statistics if he or she is in government. So we are just putting that in knowledge with additional thing of IT to convert them in initial level primary level data science. And we are also sharing, because we are working with number of departments. So we are sharing the pre-configured domain domain frameworks or models with them. So we can say that we have developed this model for X department, but if you find it suitable to you can also adopt them with a detailed customization. That brings out very fast deployment of my solution and very cost effective, because not many things need not to be redeveloped. I should cite one example which is very suitable to Mr. Gopal also. I will not name the agency for whom we have built that model. One of the classified user has come up with, to us to put analysis of their maintenance cycle. So their equipment comes once in a year or twice in a year to base, and there they have to maintain that equipment, which is around 5,000 or 10,000 crore worth of rupees. So they came to us, please forecast that, because whenever something comes to base, it comes with some problem. My rotor is not working, my engine is having the cranking sound like that. So can you tell us what all other equipments need replacement or repair at that time? Because bringing that instrument to base is very costly, both in terms of rupees and both in terms of time and usability, because if it is in field, it will be used for that purpose. So we built that model, and we are graduating that, and it has crossed efficiency level of more than 80%. So that some sort of these type of issues can be taken up by the railways also whenever their engine is coming to the shop. So if it is having some issue, if they start capturing the data values for all the repairs or the subsequent repairs or the intermediate repairs, they can also use the same thing. If engine is coming to shop, these things should be checked, and if it has run to 13,000 kilometers, so that bearing or that part, that thing should also be replaced. Even then, even though that is not bad at that time, but meantime, within 3 months or 4 months, it will go bad. So replacement cost will be far smaller than the cost where that same engine is getting back to engine shop. So like that, we can have that very practical example. And we are also building something for government where they can also have the cross-sectional comparison done on their tips. They can select the geography, but everything in government, when we talk about the data analysis, should follow the standards. If I am not following the same district code across the scheme, I will not be able to get the correct data, because you can write the same name of the district differently, same name of the village differently. So all the standards have been built on IT, and whenever some we just educate and we just convince the user, first standardize your data values. If it is there, then we can reach very fast to last mile. So these are the things: standardization, building models, capacity building, and building on my own tool are the things which I look forward in days to come. Thank you.
Thanks, Prashantji, and thanks also for talking about a couple of use cases, including the maintenance use case in terms of how data actually can be used to improve the maintenance activity. And you also brought in one important point, which says the era of tables have gone, and now most of the users would need to look at the data in much better way, where they can easily spot those outliers and identify the trends, patterns to take some decisions. And this brings me to the topic of how important the human intelligence or human intervention is in terms of identifying and analyzing the data, asking the right questions to the data so that they can identify those trends and take the decisions. We also call it more like a data literacy. What I mean by that, data literacy is the ability for any user to read that data, work with that data, analyze that data, and communicate what they have understood or analyzed from that data to their colleagues or the right stakeholders within the organizations. So I actually wanted to know about what has been your approach to data literacy, and maybe we can start with Dr. Gopal Krishnan in terms of understanding if you can comment about how what are some of your approaches and strategies for shifting to a data first culture within the organizations.
That's an important question, but I would say, as I mentioned earlier, data analytics is a very, as everybody knows out in the audience, which is more tuned towards data analytics, is that it's a collaborative effort of the domain expert, the data engineers who understand where the data is coming, whether it's internal or external, the data scientists, visualization experts, and also IT DevOps, because suddenly you might develop for a desktop, but you have a million users. So in data analytics, some of the solutions can be extremely time consuming. So you need to have a good deployment architecture. So when we look at literacy, so one is literacy within an IT organization also, which is like traditional IT. They probably, a lot of them don't understand things like containerization, Kubernetes. So that's a small, very core tech kind of thing. On the business side, people think that everything can be outsourced. You just tell them at a press of a button, magic will come out. It doesn't come out that way. It requires constant iterative. You might have a very big business problem, but you have to break it down into smaller, chewable things. Not all objectives of the business or the domain user can be met at one point in time. So you might have to start small. And it requires literacy at all levels. One, when we look at championing the kind of action plan, what kind of analytics can take place. So that's where, even from a data analytics person, we should have a good domain experience. So that you can talk to the top management, the top leadership positions in different ministries, and gain their confidence that these are the problems that they would like to have, because the shoe is biting them, it's not biting us. So they have to come up with those solutions. We can't go to a doctor, and the doctor cannot go to a patient. The patient has to come to a doctor. And the second is, once these use cases are developed, again, the people are going to use it, and that's where the communication, like over 60% of the use cases, even after AI has been used like a year or 6 months, then probably the acceptance levels are not that very high. So we do what is called a stakeholder engagement right through the development process. So any use case that we take on behalf of Railways, I have a domain expert as a small committee or thing which we keep interacting with them, maybe 10, 15, maybe it's with these VCs in place. We have at least 10, 15 people from different aspects of the problem are looking together. And every month we brief them what kind of progress we made and how they perceive the solution to be. So that gives them the ownership, because they are going to be the champions who are going to proliferate the usage of the analytics solution. So people in the data science team cannot do that. It has to be the business or the domain expert, or whatever you can call it. And that's where we need to communicate both on the usage and accessibility, and also have key champions for each use case.
Right. I think having that stakeholder engagement, having key champion becomes more important to have, and have that data literacy at the various levels. So let's move to Lily ma'am to hear her views in terms of what approaches you're using to bring in the data first culture within your organization.
Okay. See, whenever we talk of culture, we have to think of accessibility of the data and accessibility of the charts. So I think that analytics should be intuitive enough, It should help people to interact. It should be interactive, dynamic in nature. I should be able to make change as I understand. It can be at my level also, at my user level, but then some dynamics should be there. Otherwise, just looking at the static data does not give me ownership. It means that it has just been designed and it has been given as a tool to me to just look at, but I don't have any role to play. Third thing which I feel is, if I want end users to use this, I think of three different roles. One is the development team, who is actually having the data and who is also building the dashboards. Second is the business user or the user division who wants their data to be utilized. And third is the end user. So we should have review sessions. We should regularly have sign-offs whenever we want to have the dashboards created. We should have sign-offs from the user divisions. Third thing is, there should be a provision of training, audio-visual training, so that people are able to use it. And whether you use an open source or an enterprise tool, it hardly matters, because when I was in Aadhaar in 2014, we had used Pentaho, which was an open source tool. At that time, it was very simple tool. It could give only bar chart. But now we have layers and layers of tools available. Even open source are very strong tools which can be used. But just having strong tools and lot of data is not at all going to help. We have to make people use it. And for that, there should be rigorous training provided. Just like software training is the only tool we can help people use. And once I start giving feedback and the feedback captured are again corrected into the dashboard, suddenly you have the ownership. So, these are very basic tools, but I still want to use it to just popularize amongst my organization.
Yeah, and you had a nice perspective around what culture means, and probably that's how that helps you drive that data-driven, if we want to again call it as a culture. And I think it ties up to, in some ways, what Dr. Gopal Krishnan also said in terms of having the right stakeholder engagement at various levels, like you rightly categorize the different level of users, right from the development teams, and having them engaged at various levels to ensure that data-driven thing. So thanks, ma'am, for that. Let's move to Prashantji to hear his views. What approaches you think you're using or could help bring in that data-driven culture within the organization?
I would like to share one incident which happened around more than 20 years ago when I was undergoing master's course in BITS Pilani. I was posted in the district headquarters, and I participated in one of the workshops there, where some officers of the state administration were also there. So we were talking about the noise reduction, how the electronic circuits can be used for noise reduction, like that. Too many tough topics were there. And when the officer from the state cadre was asked to speak on this data thing, he started with, भैंस को कांकड़ा और सरकार को आंकड़ा बहुत अच्छा लगता है. I should translate it for you, that the cow, that buffalo like Nola, and government likes data. So unless until it is going to convert into the thick milk, it is of no use. Any person who is into cattle rearing business doesn't offer Binola to non-milking cattle. So it is one thing. So as you said, we have to induce the value proposition out of my effort. Madam and Gopal both have, I think, underlined this requirement. Unless until you produce the consumer, you will not be relished more. And this is the chicken egg situation. Unless until you put good data analytical reports, you will not be able to attract user. If you are not having an user, you will not be enthusiastic enough to create good data analytic thing. So overcome this thing, we are organizing workshop, and nowadays, right from the Apex office, means you can understand, till the state level ministers and those, they understood the issue, and they are propagating this with every gene they could put in their offices. So as managing director of Nixie, I usually gets invitation of launch of dashboards. And when I hear from the ministers, I feel really good that they are the driving force of the administration. They think, and they usually call, आप हमारे अधिकारियों को भी सिखाइए. That is the call, that is the ask which has come in government now. So data literacy is not a word which will only be used for some literature purpose, because they are the domain expert. If they can consume some tricks from my lectures, my classes, my query by example thing, they are far more capable to produce results from that instance. That is the thing. And they have started using that thing. As I told, everyone understands the statistics. Only thing, you have to pack, you have to be smart in packaging the things. So we are working in that direction, and we are providing them very easy to use tools also. And I am happy to see that they are converting.
Yeah, I think you had the very nice analogy to start with in terms of how to really drive the data-driven culture in the organization. And in the context of data, so data literacy has become as important or as good a skill as reading or writing skill in our day-to-day life. That's what we have really realizing, understanding based on what we have been discussing with various customers in public sector as well as non-public sector organizations. Earlier this year, Click along with Omdia undertook a survey where we had more than 100 odd chief digital officers across APAC, which included India, Singapore, Australia, and Japan. We conducted a survey around various data and analytics initiatives, the data literacy approaches, etc., within these organizations. And one of the summary of that research that we did along with Omdia was that it showed that on an average across these four countries, the numbers for India might be a little different, but almost 65% of the government agencies out of who responded rely on data for their insights and any decision making that we have. And that leaves out almost 35% of the organizations who probably might not be using data as efficiently for their decision making. With that, I'm actually curious to get your views in terms of what are some of the most important elements that you see in creating that data first culture, while some of the things that you talked about earlier, but would that be more like a data literate employee, or is it more like a very executive level support using the right tool or any other things? Can you share your views? Maybe we can start with Lily, ma'am. You.
I don't think there is any set rule that can help people to, start using. It is only the ownership. It is like a software. Unless and until you own it, you will not use it. So first thing is we have to buy the ownership from the end user. We have to make them use. And to make them use, we have to give them something which they find very useful or value addition, and that is my USP of the analytics. So if different type of any app that you see, it has so many different flavors, but it gives me something which is of my like, which is of my choice. And so I want the end user to see something which I have actually built or to play upon but then there has to be some value system which they want to see. It might not be useful, but then it has to be there to imbibe the culture of analytics. Second thing is, whenever we talk of data, we must think of measurement. When I go back to my CMMI level days, we always used to see, how do you see this data? How do you perceive the usefulness of the data? So data set, developing data set, having data lake, AI, ML, these are all hype. But then when unless and until I really make the person use the data, whichever tool I have, I am not able to achieve my objective at whatever level I am operating. So the ownership has to be built upon with practice, practice, and practice. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah. How can we bring in that ownership so that they start using it? That's how we can bring in that data-driven culture. Right. Right. What are your views, Dr. Gopal Krishnan, in terms of what elements you feel are important in bringing this data-first culture?
So what we do is we just not we have to engage cutting across the spectrum in the organization at all levels. We cannot. It's like a chariot driven by multiple horses. One horse cannot run fast and the others lag behind. So we take a call that whenever we do data analytics, we deal with our training institutes for both our staff and officers. Every month or so, every 15 days, we are conducting some sessions where a lot of officers are there, and it's the onus is also on us that we should be patient with our approach of communicating with people, have a direct communication with as many people as you can, like with VCs and everything. The number can be just explode. And other than that, key champion, maybe the group, the department heads concerned, they play very role because everybody looks to them for inspiration. So even the staff working under them are inspired by the leaders. So obviously, taking them is on board is very important. And third is we also should have conviction that this what we have solved for the domain user is very important. So we should be able to walk the talk, and we should be able to keep it simple, bereft of any jargon of big AI ML. People are not interested in AI ML. They're wanting to whether this can solve my problem. It's like even as I would say as important as you can draw inspiration from even selling soap. So the person who's going to buy is going to invest his time to look and use your solution. So it's nothing but same as using his money. So you're asking even if you're not direct control, he's spending time to use and is confident of using your solution. So you have to be able to convince him, and that particular product or solution you have developed has to have value for him. And that goes, it's like each time you have to get the product right. So it's a collaborative effort and you have to communicate well.
Yeah, thanks. As you said, yeah, it's collaborative effort. How we can really bring in that inspiration and have that conviction that solution that we're bringing in would be good enough for them to use, and it'll trickle down to there. So Prashantji, what are your views? What elements do you find are important in bringing that culture?
I think much of the doables are already explained by my friends Lily and Gopal. I would like to make it by my experience that first impression makes more than. And if you are inviting officers or the domain people for the first gathering, if you can't put a very charming example, it will, I think, it will derail the whole thing. And next time when you will be, even the good thing, it will be very hard to attract their attention. That is one thing which I felt by my practice. So you have to be very smart and very particular when you are interacting first time with your user. That is the learning I should share with you. And as rightly said, this is not the thing which you can purchase, bought or like that. You can put on the shelf. Yeah, tomorrow onwards you will be always be using this data thing. It must be cultivated, development right from the top leadership, because we are accustomed of following instruction, whatever we can say that we are a liberated one or the, but we always follow what comes down. So this is second thing which I learned with my experience in implementing those things, leadership plays a role. I think that has already been pointed out. And the hardest roadblock will be to reach them and ask them to share their data. This is the third most important thing. कि भाई अपना डाटा दे दो, इसमें मैं कुछ करके दिखाऊं. That is the most difficult thing when you are interacting with those persons who are at the intermediate level, because they think once they will share the data, their all power, their all values will be lost. So we have to compensate with attitude. No, we will enable you so you can drive the same information which takes around 3 days. You can come up in a 1 day and a half day like that. I have to tell them that story. Storyboard is very important. I should also, and democratization of data, as you say, we will ask them to put every data. So not only that particular domain people can play with the data, whosoever is having that smartness can work on that. And we should also provide them some time. So where will time come from? From 9 to 5:30, they are busy. So if we can convert their some labor intensive task to automated one with our skill set, or with those not many robo things are there. So we have to go there with that thing. That this particular thing will help you in culling out the result in 3 hours, which is being taken for 3 days. So you are having that many hours with you, which you can invest in the data analytic thing. Or like this is my experience, and I have a very proven example following these things. Thank you.
Yeah, and I can very well relate to your point on the first impression, because I can very well understand that the senior officers, even the ministry people, or those might not have a lot of time. So it is important to show them quickly the best thing, how they can actually use that. And thanks for sharing your views on handling those people dynamics and psychology, how we can actually bring in that data culture within the organization. So I'm aware that we are just above the time, but I would like to request just 3 or 4 minutes of your additional time. And I just want to conclude by asking each one of you just one question in terms of with your humongous experience of working with data, implementing various systems. What is the one piece of practical advice you would like to give to the organizations in public sector as well as non-public sector who are starting out on their data journey or at some initial stages of the data and analytics journey? Maybe we can start with you, Prashantji.
I think we all agree that you should plan. I have already told you should plan small, smart, and relevant. So that is the thing. If you can get success in doing some sort a small example, a small successful example, and a small relevant successful example, that will anyway invite their attention for subsequent. Yes.
Thanks, Prashantji. Dr. Gopal Krishnan, what would be your advice to the organizations who are starting?
Though I don't recommend a magic bullet here, but each organization is different. You have to identify the value proposition for each organization, where they would like to work on, which gives them the biggest pain point. And that's something where even the data science or the data science unit has to have some kind of domain expertise and try to be in their shoes. If they were in their person's same role, what problem would you have solved? So rather than trying to say that I have a solution for X problem, which is probably their least of their priorities, you should be able to come up with a solution for that. Not so the most important, that would be too complex for which data might not be available. You might not be able to solve it. But given the sources for which data is available, try to attempt those which is probably of highest value to them, and then gain confidence of all levels. That's and it's a very laborious, painful process which you cannot avoid.
Right. Thanks, Dr. Gopal Krishnan. Lily ma'am, what would be your advice?
I think that in this developed world of analytics, we should think that the tool or the application that we build should have the expertise like building a toy. If you have a child and you give any toy to the child, you don't have to teach him how to use it. He just start uses, and then you become aware of different use cases of the toy. So when we try to build analytics at the framework level, at the metrics level, at a simple dashboard level, I have to look at different use cases. I have to look at different user category. And then I simply want to, use this word that it should be easy to use, it should be easy to interpret, and it should be easy to, handle. And so I use this word toy because if you think of Apple phone or a Samsung phone or any, the UI is designed in such a way that any person using it, they are able to, configure it, install it, so I just want to end up saying that build a toy using analytics.
Make the experience so easy that you don't have to teach them how to use it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Dr. Gopal Krishnan, Prashant ji, and Lily ma'am for sharing your views. I'm sure you would have also got some things out of these discussions from each other. So thanks a lot for it. Maybe if I have to call out a couple of themes or highlights of the entire discussion, I think I would like to call out a couple of points in which you started by talking about how can we really build a framework so that we can really break it down into chunks, use cases, build those use cases, and then start success, and then keep on bringing in those use cases within the organizations. And the important point which both Lily ma'am and Prashantji brought out in terms of how we can actually bring out the storytelling out of that data so that everybody can start talking about those things. And even Dr. Gopal Krishnan brought out a very important point of the stakeholder engagement at different levels, right from the development stages, how we can actually do those things. And obviously, your advices were pieces of gold nuggets in terms of starting small, being relevant. And there is obviously no magic bullet. Every organization would have their own dynamics, identifying those use cases and taking it forward. And obviously culminating by having sharing the experience of talking about making the data analytics experience as a toy so that nobody have to teach them how to use that. And that would, I think, be a really a stage where everybody would definitely want to reach out to. So thanks a lot, everyone, for sharing the views. So back to you, Dimple, for the final conclusion.
Thank you, Nilesh, for taking us through such an enlightening and such a perspective session. It was an absolute pleasure to listen to such a fantastic discussion. And before I conclude the session, I'd like to express my gratitude to everyone, each one of the panelists for taking out the time and joining us here today, and for sharing the knowledge and their expertise with us. Thank you once again for joining this session on Power of Active Intelligence, Transcending Collaboration Beyond the Last Mile, powered by Qlik. We look forward to seeing you all more for our sessions in the future. This is Dimple Bajwa signing off. Have a nice day and stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dimple. And thank you everyone for extending by almost 10 minutes. I thought we'll finish it by 5.